Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Thanks for joining the conversation. Hello. Thank you all for your patience. I know I've missed 2 weeks of new episodes, but my hope is that you were able to check out some of the previous ones that you might have missed. I mean, there are over 300, and I'm sure you haven't heard all of them. Have you? If you have, kudos. Wow, amazing. Thanks, Oscar. I know that you're the only one that has listened to every episode. In any case, I just wanted to say thank you for hanging in there as my schedule has been challenging. And today I'm sharing some life updates and where we are in the AAPI history bill process. I also thought it would be fun to share a bit about my latest Caribbean adventure. So tune in to hear about how fun it was to jump from a 40-foot waterfall. If you are enjoying this show, please rate my podcast on your platform of choice and share it with others. If you would like to support with a donation to help keep this podcast going and support the work I do, you can become a patron of the show by visiting my website or patreon.com/SifuMimiChan. For comments or suggestions, reach out on social media at SifuMimiChan. Now on with the show. Hello, everyone. I apologize that it has been a couple of weeks since you have gotten to hear a new episode on the Sifu Mimi Chan show. However, I have been a bit overwhelmed. Just to give you a bit of a recap, my year kicked off, as I think you might recall in some of my other solo episodes, with a cruise to the Caribbean with my family to celebrate New Year's. A lot of us ended up getting COVID and fighting off these infections from allergies, all sorts of things. But then it was Lunar New Year. So when we celebrate Chinese New Year here, it actually ended up lasting from, I want to say January 6th or 7 was our first show. And our last performance, I think, was March 21st. So it was the longest Chinese New Year season that we've had in a really long time. And it was super, super exhaustive. Amidst all of that, of course, because my family is in a position where they want to get as much vacation time in, see the world. Back in the day, we used to do Chan Fam retreats, and those consisted of 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes cruises or vacations where the Chan family, which are my parents, Tina, Oscar, and myself, would go and basically be in seclusion on board a ship, likely, and we trained. We spent time together, we did a little bit of research, and some R&R. Those were actually always trips I really looked forward to. Sometimes we would, in the past, taken a ship all the way from Rio de Janeiro back to Florida. So you can imagine how long that took. And we also did something in Australia and New Zealand. But lately, with my parents being older, we pretty much are limited to departing from Florida, which means the Caribbean. So in March, we also took a 2-week Caribbean cruise, and that consisted of actually a pretty killer itinerary. There was finally a Caribbean island on the itinerary that I had not been to yet, and that is Trinidad and Tobago. And it was very exciting to be there because we have family members that have married Trinidadians. And it's actually an island I've always wanted to see. So unfortunately, when we do these trips, we usually only get a full day to explore. But this one was great because we really got a chance to hang out with one of the locals who is just the sweetest person that ended up taking us to the local grocery store to get a bunch of snacks as well as a hit list of items from all of my mom's Jamaican friends that wanted spices and curry and cocoa and all these kind of things. So it ended up being quite nice because we got to just kind of feel a bit of the culture, and we took a really, brief island tour that just showed a bit of the history of ports of Spain, and that was nice. And some of the other islands that we visited were also very different. So Dominica was one of them. And a lot of people always think Dominica and Dominican Republic are the same, and they are not. I had been to Dominica a long time ago. I want to say it's been like over 20 years. It's been a really long time. But Oscar, it was his first visit to Dominica, and it was really nice because we decided that we were going to do something different, and we went canyoning, which kind of consists of you getting all suited up to basically rappel down waterfalls and down the canyon. So in Dominica, there's a really cool gorge called the Titu Gorge. And I think that is also where they filmed the Pirates of Caribbean scene. I think where Johnny Depp is like falling somewhere. But in any case, it was really, really amazing because we were able to just kind of have the entire gorge to ourselves. There was no one else canyoning. So it was just me and Oscar, my Kung Fu brother, and the tour guide, who was this really, really fun and fiery French woman who decided to live in Dominica after just falling in love with the island. And she's kind of an expert in that area where she, harnessed us up, would make sure we didn't fall to our deaths and taught us what to do. And it was just a lot of fun. And it's just funny because I posted some images and some videos on Instagram of us going down the canyon. And when I watch it, I think, wow, we look remarkably slow and uncool. But the rock, the side of the canyon is just covered in algae and moss, and it's just super, super slippery. So wasn't so brave that I was rappelling like in Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise coming down any of the, wires that he rappels from, but it definitely felt cool at the time. So that was a lot of fun. And me stepping outside of my comfort zone, because typically on these cruises, I think you listeners may know that I just like to kind of sit on the balcony, watch the ocean, have some silence, get away from the pollen that's just been plaguing us in Florida, but also just some quiet time to read my comics, to catch up on some mental health practice and meditation. And it's just usually a really kind of calming time when I'm away from everyone. Other than that, it's family time where we are absorbed with the training or just taking care of my parents and making sure that they're all, doing the activities they want to do, going to tea time, etc. But this time on the islands, I thought, I'm not sure when I'm coming back to some of these more southern and very far east islands like Barbados and Dominica and Martinique. So we thought we would be a little bit more adventurous, and it proved to be a really good time. And it's funny because Oscar and I always talk about how, nope, we just want to sit on the ship. That's when everyone gets off the ship. There's no one there. It's our time for silence. But it's kind of like we got to be old grumpy people before we got too old. And I think sometimes it's good for us to kick ourselves in the ass and remind ourselves that, we are at an age where we can still do things. We are at an age where we can still enjoy something like canyoning and not have it be a thing where you're jumping off a, 12 meters or 20 something foot waterfall and then being so sore the next day that it would be painful. It was more of a reminder that, hey, I did something fun yesterday, kind of sore. And so it was good for us to kind of not be lazy about it, and this is total first world problems to go, oh man, I'm going on vacation and finally getting out of my comfort zone and doing fun activities. And it just sounds horrible saying any of this out loud, but these podcasts are usually a reminder for me to kind of try to be a bit of a more appreciative person, but just to kind of reflect and think about all the things that we've been privileged to enjoy. And so just seeing all these countries and going to these different islands were really, really enlightening and a lot of fun. But also a reminder, these are third world countries, just like where my mom is from in Jamaica, where I think I've shared on this podcast before, you really step outside of your comfort zone when you see kind of how other people in this world live. Like there is poor, in the United States, there's definitively poverty, there's definitively hunger. And then there's third world country poor. And it is a bit different. I know that in the US, there is crime. There are things that are absolutely horrible and it happens everywhere. But the fact that, and I've said this before, I know it's a repeat of a lot of the stories I've told, but the fact that I actually know personally people who have been murdered in Jamaica, more than one, one of them being someone that's related to me, it's just that statistic runs pretty high. And that is really due to the poverty, and crime is a result of poverty and hunger and a situation where people don't have the same opportunities that they have in the United States. And just being in an environment like that is always a good reminder to us first world country humans who take things for granted. And as you all know, I have been working on legislation here in Florida to include Asian American and Pacific Islander history into our K through 12 curriculum. And that bill was written this January. We got a sponsor. We've been gaining a lot of support. We've been working our butts off. And it has not been an easy thing. I've had so many Zoom meetings, I can't even count. I think more in the past several months than I did throughout the entire pandemic, believe it or not. And, that includes that Rucka and I meeting extra on top of my podcast every week during the pandemic. So this is quite a few Zoom meetings. We're talking multiple meetings per day. And as a result, though, during this cruise, my bills went onto the House and the Senate agendas, and we have 3 agendas to get through. So just to give you an outline of what happens for a bill to become a law here in Florida. Basically, someone like me who's crazy and has no sense of self-sanity decides they're going to write a bill or try to change law or make an amendment, and they're going to go find a senator and a House representative to try to sponsor this bill. And this year, I strategically chose 2 Republican sponsors because we are here in a supermajority in Florida. So I had to basically pitch and explain why this would be important for everyone. And this is a bipartisan bill. There's no partisanship in education, I believe. And I know that this opens me to a can of worms of all the other crazy, ridiculous things that are happening in education right now. But my focus is this one bill that I started last year. So you get these lead sponsors and then you start going crazy trying to get everybody and anyone to co-sponsor it, which really just means that they put their name on the bill saying, we agree with this bill, we vouch for it. And that way, when it goes to the floor, you already know you have a lot of supporters, right? It shows ahead of time who is supporting this bill. And the reason it's such a challenge to get supporters early on is because a bill can go through a lot of amendments and changes through the process, which we have learned. So our bill was placed on 3 different committees. It means we have to clear those committees. We first have to vie to get on the agenda for the committee, which doesn't always happen. Most bills die there. They don't even get heard. Then once you get on the agenda, you have to pass, and then you have to go through 2 more. So you have to go total of 3. And then after that, you still have to vie to get onto the floor to be heard. So it's technically another committee. It's just the floor, the House floor, the Senate floor. So it's the big one, the big committee, the final. And then after that, if it passes all of that, the governor decides if he is going to veto or sign the bill, and then that is how a bill becomes the law. So that is like a 2-minute breakdown of something that takes years usually to accomplish. My understanding is it takes several years for a bill to pass, not because it's a bad bill, but because there's usually not time on the agenda for it, or there is not enough time allotted to get everything done. And so it's a matter of advocates like myself that are crazy enough to show up to Tallahassee, to get on a million Zoom calls a day, to basically harass legislators to let them know this is one of the most important things to the community, to try to get it done, to make the right relationships, to be very strategic in how it's going to play out. And at the end of the day, once you pass all the committees and then the votes on the floor, that's when we see what happens. And so while I was on the cruise, 2 of my committees came up, which was one in the House, one in the Senate. Very, very grateful to other Make Us Visible Florida advocates that were able to show up and testify since I couldn't be there. It is also a 4-hour drive to Tallahassee, so I also couldn't necessarily commit to going to every single committee meeting, but I definitely make sure that we have community there to support the bill. And just kind of so you have an idea, not all bills have people speak on behalf of it. Obviously, the big ones, like some of the bills that you see regarding the gun safety, there's an open carry bill that's going forward in the Florida legislature right now, which is absolutely terrifying to me. But you'll see a lot of people stand up for those. But like, say there's a bill on water conservation or some sort of, roadway or something. A lot of times you don't see people getting up to testify or supporting, waving in support, which just means you fill out a piece of paper to say, hey, I was here at this meeting in support of this bill, right? So something like this that has a lot of community support is really is a really positive thing, and it's really exciting to see. So while I was gone, those two bills went. They were unanimously supported, meaning every single person on the committees voted yes. And that is absolutely thrilling because, as I've said before, we are in a Republican supermajority here in Florida, which just goes to show this bill is supported by everyone. We have both Democrats and Republicans on board, and we are able to now keep moving through the process. So we have also gotten through our second committee in the House side, and again, with unanimous support, and also the third committee in the House side, and again, with unanimous support. So we are headed to the House floor, which means these committees are usually like 10 to like 20 humans, where the House floor is going to be the entire House of Representatives, so all 120 members, and they will now put it to a vote. And because I've done my due diligence, I already know I have the majority vote. So as long as I can get myself on the agenda, this bill is going to pass through the House and will await the Senate to catch up. So where I'm at right now in the process, by the time this podcast airs, is I will have been hopefully scheduled for my second Senate hearing. Don't know that yet. Hoping to know sometime while this is being recorded, the week this is recorded, but hopefully that will go through. And then after that, I need to get on one more agenda and then pass in the Senate floor as well. And then the real stress starts, where we hope that this governor is on board with our bill. So, this is basically an excuse episode to tell you why I haven't been recording podcasts. I went on that 2-week cruise. Lots of mobility happening with the bill while I was gone. I was online all day on Zoom calls and watching live and, talking to the Make Us Visible team while this was occurring. I got home, had some really important guests in town. We had some Wallum family stuff going on for 2 days. And then I went to Tallahassee, directly to Tallahassee to testify and to just go around and gather more support. Being there in person makes a huge difference. So I was there for two days. And then after that, went to Tallahassee. I got home. I went to Boston for a Wallum event where I taught a seminar. I did some testing, and it was just absolutely crazy. And then fast forward to me finally getting back home and just trying to get stuff back on track. And so I did have some canceled appointments for podcast interviews due to my last minute travels to Tallahassee. And I did let my Patreons know that a couple of those interviews were some comic creators, which should be posted soon. And the one conversation I've already recorded as of this date of me talking to you right now is Cliff Chang, who is this fantastic artist and a writer who worked with Brian K. Vaughan on Paper Girls, one of my favorites. Really, really enjoyed that. He's also worked on Wonder Woman, loved his run with Brian Azzarello. And of course, he has his Catwoman Lonely City series that, is his most recent creation that he wrote, as well as Drew and Latsard, and just kind of did everything from A to Z on that. And so really excited to share that conversation with you very, very soon. And another comic creator that I had to cancel on that I feel absolutely horrific about is Nicholas Scott from Australia. Yes, the Nicholas Scott, who works with Greg Rucka on Black Magic, but also Wonder Woman Historia, the 3rd volume, and just a slew of amazing artwork. And so I am actually supposed to be recording with her this week, as long as nothing crazy happens. And so that conversation should be coming to you soon. I've also been in contact with all of our warrior friends, and hopefully we will be connecting soon prior to the season 3 launch and premiere, so you guys can get psyched about that. Everyone's been absolutely wonderful in communicating with me. However, our schedules just have not aligned. The stars have not aligned for us. So hopefully those conversations will be coming to you soon. I am very aware that this is April, which means May is AAPI Heritage Month, in which I hope to bring to you some really insightful conversations with fellow Asian Americans, and just to see what their experience was, and also just to kind of honor and really think about that month, especially because hopefully by then my bill will have been passed and I'll have so much to celebrate. So those are my updates. It seems like things have been a little bit crazed and a little crazy. And really, I just want to thank you for your patience with me. I feel like I've been apologizing a lot this year, but it's just been very, very hard to keep up with the aggressive weekly podcast schedule. So please note that this could mean you have an extra week or so to go back and listen to something that you previously enjoyed. I'm also not even doing the in case you missed it necessarily. It's just a lot on my team right now to keep up with everything. And so just really appreciate them for all the work they do to keep this podcast going. My Patreons, you all are amazing. It doesn't just keep this podcast going, but it really enables me to continue the social justice work. And that's because I don't have to worry about some of the technicalities that go with the podcast, which would take up a lot more of my time. And now that that time is free, I can work on things that I'm passionate about and hopefully bettering society, because not everybody is doing that. And it is quite an undertaking. I don't think I knew a couple years ago how much energy and resources it would take to get this bill passed, and what I was getting into when I decided to start that change.org petition to include AAPI history in our schools. And even though I started the petition, I realized that doesn't mean that I'm the one that had to take on the initiative, but those of you who've been with me for the last 6 years, listening to me podcast, getting to know my personality through conversations with others and also solo podcasts like this, pretty sure you realize how tenacious I can be and very stubborn, I guess is another word for it. But it's something I want to see done, and I feel like I won't rest till it's finished. And I really want to see this through. However, I really admit I am exhausted. I am physically and mentally exhausted from all of it, not just the MUVFL stuff, but Wallum keeps me extraordinarily busy on a daily, if not hourly basis. There's always things going on. I know I don't talk about it all the time because that's kind of just the constant in my life. And with my parents being older, and even with Tina and her schedule, they keep me very occupied as well. So just trying to be mindful of balancing my family time with my work time, with my volunteering time, with my self-care time, right? I think there's been a bit of a overload. And so I do want to keep this podcast going. I do want to keep the conversations and the relationships I've built through this podcast going. I will continue to do so. I just ask for your patience in case I don't make my weekly deadlines. Every time I feel like I'm 4 episodes ahead, I'm like, oh, I've got a whole month now. Suddenly I turn around and I'm like 2 weeks behind again. So it is just showing that you can't do it all, that you have to prioritize. And someone like me who likes to do it all, it is a humbling reminder that I have to really take care of myself. Otherwise, I won't be able to do any of it. And this is advice that I give to other people. So I'm certainly saying all of this out loud so that I can remind myself. And I think that there is a lot of emphasis on the word mental health, on the word self-care. But I'm not sure that a lot of us actually do the things that we need to actually take care of our mental health and do the self-care. Like we could say, oh, I got a massage today. But then if you've burnt the candle on both ends for the other 23 hours of the day, don't know if that really balances out. So I think finding better balance than just trying to take a moment here or there, is a better long-term result, right? And so Oscar and I do have a bunch of more fun trips planned this year. I know a lot of you follow our travels and our adventures. One of the things that I am undertaking that is very, very scary and daunting to me is that we are going to do the short hike to Machu Picchu. And yes, all of you who know me are going, why would you do that when nature is involved and it is outdoors? I am aware that Machu Picchu is outdoors, everybody. But I originally said, no, I'm just going to sit on the train and take that into Aguascalientes and just like meet everyone there and I'll take pictures. But then I saw that there was just so many incredible archaeological sites and just the beauty of the country that I could see while doing this hike. And I thought this would be a really good moment that I described earlier, which was just jump down that waterfall and go down that canyon. And so I am just jumping onto the hike and going to make this kind of a goal that'll also kind of hold me accountable to make sure I'm doing my daily exercise, because I need to stay strong. I need to stay healthy. My joints need to be in good shape. I need to try to work towards that hike. I have never, I don't think, hiked for 8 hours, but I have toured all day in Barcelona for 8 hours, and pretty sure the amount of steps would be similar. It's just I wouldn't have been eating every hour like I did in Barcelona. So that's going to be a big difference there. But I think I'm sharing this just so that once I've said it out loud on this podcast, I have to do it. So holding myself accountable, thanks to you all, and challenging myself through what I consider to be something really, really majorly difficult for me. I'm sure a lot of you out there are kind of snickering or laughing at me going, okay, like an 8-hour hike is not that big of a deal. But trust me, for me, just a 1-hour hike is a big deal. Even if it's just the battling of nature that I am going to be doing. I did my first 2-mile walk, and I haven't walked in so long, to start kind of kicking myself into gear the other day. But walking in Florida outdoors is a real challenge for me because of the pollen. And so I did it with a mask on, and I have to say, I felt like I was being waterboarded the whole time. My mask was soaked and it was gross, but it is much better than getting a sinus infection. I think a lot of you might remember in December when I had that issue, it took me weeks to recover, and I definitely can't go through that again. So the challenge of all of this is not just the physical part, but there is a lot of other health challenges that have to do with this hike for me. But I really am excited about it. I'm excited about being out of my comfort zone and trying to be better this year about embracing that and enjoying it versus just being kind of grumpy and afraid of it. And I'm not sure if there's, any philosophy in there for all of you, but basically just check in on me. Let me know that you support me and cheer me on during this process. I will continue to post some of that adventure on Instagram as I can. As I remember, lately, I've just been posting stories and reposts and reminders of what's going on with our bill. And I will continue to do that as well. But it's just been quite a journey. And it is April now. And I can't believe we have already passed that first quarter of the year, because for me, once we move into the second quarter, it just feels like the year is over. Here come the holidays. Here comes, just the end of the year. And it's amazing how quickly things go, how fast time goes. And I really am going to try to focus on slowing down a little bit and enjoying each moment and putting myself in discomfort and being able to embrace that and learn from that and grow from that. So that's my update. It's a quick one today. I just wanted to let you know what's going on with the AAPI History Inclusion Bill. Oh, sidebar, the Make Us Visible coloring books are out. So if you haven't gotten one of those yet, let us know. We have a very fun stash in Orlando. We want people to share in that and to enjoy that, learn from the coloring book about AAPI pioneers. My dad is in it, so it's super exciting and awesome to see. I'm so grateful Make Us Visible decided to honor him that way, and that he will forever be in this volume of the coloring book of AAPI pioneers. They're very, very localized, so very specific to each state and the ones that are covered in this volume. So please, look into getting that. I'm happy to get one to you if you kind of help with a donation for that and to getting it shipped out to you and all of that. So just if you're interested in seeing what that looks like, please send me a message. And also please continue to support the bill in whatever way you can. This has taken up a huge chunk of my life, but I really believe that the impact of Asian American history being taught in schools to children is going to make a very long-lasting difference in our society, in the way kids see one another, not just Asian Americans, but the way they can respect everybody and how we can, kind of learn from that. So if I didn't believe in the work, I wouldn't be doing it. And it's not just because I'm stubborn. I mean, I am stubborn, but I really do believe in the impact this is going to have. And I am so hopeful that something is going to go positive in Florida after all of the negativity. And I didn't want to get into that here because I'm just trying to get through my bill right now and trying to stay focused on it. It's been really, really difficult to do amidst all of the other things I have to deal with in the Capitol. If you have questions on the Florida bill process or questions on how to get started in advocacy like this, and maybe you want to take over and continue, running the relay that I've started, please let me know. I know it can feel very daunting, and I'm probably not selling it very good with 25 minutes of complaining about how difficult this has been, but I will tell you, it's super gratifying to get out there, be amongst people who believe in this and who are passionate about it, who cry every time the bill gets a unanimous vote, yes, to move on, who are just really, really motivated. And also just seeing the fact that we do have bipartisan legislators that are supporting this is a step in the right direction. And I kind of need to focus on that in order to get through it. So let me know if you're interested in volunteering. We're always taking more volunteers for Make Us Visible Florida. And I just want to, again, thank you so much for your patience with these podcasts and me being able to communicate with you guys and share these conversations. Like I said, hang tight. There's going to be some guests coming soon who I know you're going to enjoy. I've learned so much from the past guests I've had. Please take a listen. Just type in any of the subjects that you're interested in. If you're new to this podcast, I've done over 300 episodes and pretty much have gone almost all 6 years with a weekly podcast. With the exception of the holidays, I usually take a break. So it's really been a lot of content, and I've had some really great early conversations. I even had a conversation with someone who was in a Japanese internment camp. So if you haven't heard that episode yet, it's incredible, right? And this is one of the things I'm fighting for and working for, is so that we can learn from our history and these stories. And I was privileged to be able to share one of those conversations, with this incredible human. So please, please, please check out my previous podcasts, especially as we do get some breaks between the ones that I'm recording right now, as I try to get through this legislative session. So that is all for today. That's my update. I hope you guys are all safe and well and healthy and happy, and just shout out. Let me know what you're up to and what else you want to hear about as I look to getting more new guests on the show and having some repeat conversations with some of my friends. All right, take care. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.